How to determine the after repaired value of a property. When we talk about property values, there's really a couple things to think about here. You've got the as is value. That is the value of what the property is worth the way it sits right now. An after repaired value is once there's value added, once you've done all the repairs of the property, what will it be worth then? So that's the whole idea of it. And that's called an ARV, after repaired value. So when appraisers go and appraise things, they look at a few different things. Depending upon the property type, they're going to appraise based upon what they call is a comparable approach, or they'll do it based upon a cost approach, or they're going to do it based upon an income approach. Okay, so income approach and cost approach are typically used more in commercial properties and aren't going to be used in your single family 1 to 4. So they may do a cost approach, but comparables is really the way to do that. So when an appraiser is going to go to the house, they're going to go to the house and say, okay, what's this house going to sell for? And the way they're going to justify that is by what other houses have sold for. So let's talk about this. So typically, they're going to want to be within a certain mile radius. So if our house is right here, they're going to typically start within a half-mile radius, maybe go up to a mile radius, maybe a little more if they have to, but really they want to keep it within the mile. But the closer to the subject property, the better. The other thing that they're looking for is they're looking for natural barriers. So let's say this is a school district line, and this is a better school, and this is a worse school, okay? That is naturally going to bring prices up here, not here. So even though this house over here is worth $1 million, this house over here might only be worth $500,000 because it's on the other side of this invisible line. The other thing that you're going to run into is just like natural barriers, like streams or roads, major freeways that kind of go through here. And so where that just becomes a natural barrier. So although it might be within that half mile, you might have to shift over so that you can get a better comparable. Maybe you come out here. Really what we're looking for is we're looking for 3 comps or comparables, okay? We're looking for bedrooms, bathrooms, style, those things. So the ideal situation is if you find houses that sold that are the exact same property, okay? Exact same property as what your subject property is, okay? So what we're saying is, okay, this is your house, okay? Let's say it's all fixed up to get that after repaired value. So if this house was fixed up, and let's say it has 5 beds and 2 baths, and it's 2,000 square feet. I don't know, I'm just giving numbers here, okay? So the closer I can find a house that is the same, let's say this is a Rambler, the closer I can find a house that's exactly same to this, as close to the property, without crossing one of those natural barriers, the better, okay? And so that's what I'm looking for, is what's this? Now, if I can't find something that's as close to that, I have to make some adjustments. And that's where you've got to be careful, is in making your adjustments. So let's talk about what that looks like here. So let's just use Atlanta, Georgia. First one came up, okay? One of the ways you can see some of these natural barriers, just by zooming in, you can see big highways, big roads. Like, you know, yes, this is within a half mile, but these could be worth more than these. Right? So that's kind of a natural barrier line. That's a natural barrier line. This is kind of a natural barrier line. This subdivision may be different than here. It may not. They may be in the same range, but people can get in trouble because this is worth a whole lot more than this, but they use a comp over here when they're buying a property over here, and that doesn't work. So that's what you're looking for. Now, one of the things that we have is, okay, so this is a good example. These properties right here are worth somewhere in the 150s. where these properties right here were somewhere in the 160s, and these yellow properties over here are worth in the 500, 600,000, okay? So this is kind of a little pocket you're seeing. These are a lot less expensive than these, and these are less expensive than these. You can see this area over here is more expensive than this area over here. So that's why using software and using data is a good place to start. The second thing that I can do as a good place to start is coming and looking at what's called these estimated values, okay? This estimated value is basically a computer-generated value. Basically, it's computer-generated value. It's called an AVM, Automated Value Management System. And based upon that, it says this house is worth $711,000. Is that house worth that? Probably not. But it's close enough for me to go make an offer, send a postcard, make a phone call. It's good enough for me to make those decisions. Should I call them? Should I text them? Should I market to them? Those types of things. It's good enough for that. But it's not good enough to say, yes, I'm going to go ahead and buy it. So I can use that preliminarily to say, hey, this is a house I should go after. But when I actually get closer and I'm making an offer or negotiating or those things, that's where I'm going to look a little bit deeper. And how I look a little bit deeper is I come here to comparables and nearby listings. Now, what this is going to do for me is I'm going to be able to look at either public records, MLS records, or both. What this is saying is within last year, and you may want to go 6 months. So typically I start at 6 months and then I go out to a year if I need to. The square footage of this subject property, it already fills this in, 3219. So this is taking properties from 2,500 to 2,800. This is taking properties within a half a mile, and this is just showing us any sold properties. So if I resort this amount, I can see the cheapest is 225. And the more expensive is at this 650 range, okay, 650,000. And so then what I can do is I start with the least expensive and I work my way up. Oh, that's our subject property. Okay, so let's see here. This is one of them. I can get details. We'll open that in a new tab. Okay, so let's look at MLS details. So this property sold for $485,000. It sold in 7 days. I can look at the comments here. Desirable, 2-story, blah, 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 100-acre park. Okay. Built in 1967 and lovingly maintained and updated by the same owner for 40 years. New roof, gutters, HVAC, move-in ready, blank canvas. So I'm workshop, 2-car garage. So this tells us it sold fast, tells us price per square foot. If we can get pictures, there's no pictures on this one, but sometimes there'll be pictures. I'll show you an example of that here. So like this is gonna have pictures, details, because it has a little camera photo thing there. So yeah, there's your pictures. So then I can come in and look at the actual pictures. So, I mean, this is not a brand new house. This is a move-in ready house, but it's not like redone, but it's not bad. It's not a fixer-upper. This is a FHA, better than FHA property is really what it looks like to me here. So we look at this. So what I'm basically doing is I'm comparing my subject property, okay? This subject property right here, this has 3,219 square feet. I'm making a comparison on that and saying, is mine worth more or is mine worth less? And I start with my lowest and I work my way up in making the determination. Now, this tells me the average sales price is $565, price per square foot is $186. That gives me some idea of what's happening there, but I'm going to work my way up. So one of the things that I'm going to use to do that, okay, so this is one of the things that we've put together is this desktop value. So what we do is we come in, we put the subject property, the year built, the beds, the square footage, the garage, the distance, the max range, any notes that we may have, and then we do a link to the property listing, which is basically like this. So we can grab that URL and throw it here so we can go back and look at it. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do some area boundaries here. Okay, so where where are some of those boundaries? So that may be this road, or it might be that there's a river that comes down. So that gives us an idea of area boundaries. And then this gives us a little bit of idea, put some notes in here. Then what we're going to look, there's 3 different classifications of properties. There's as-is properties. These are properties that are going to need work. These are not move-in ready type properties. Then the next classification you're going to see is FHA ready properties. These are ones that you can move in, these ones you can purchase, but they're not like all updated. Maybe they have some updates, but not lots of updates. And then you get into the properties that are the ARV properties, after repaired value properties, meaning these have been fixed up. And you can see there's a significant price difference in some of these, depending upon where that lands, what's going on there. So this gives me a really good idea. And then what I do is I go in and choose which ones I'm going to actually use as my comparables. I can also go and look at active comps, properties that are actually on the market. So if I come here and I go to active or pending or contingent, and I take off the solds, I can see there's a couple of these. There's 697. This one is MLS pending. The interesting thing about MLS pending that you've got to realize is it hasn't sold yet. So although, we can come in here to MLS details, although these guys are asking 697, it's been on the market for 118 days. What I don't know is, did this sell for 697, or did it sell for 650, or did it sell for 500? So that's what you've got to be careful of, because until it actually sells, it's not really a good comparable, but it gives me an idea of how long it was on the market and what they were listing it for. It also gives me an idea of what this property looks like. So I can come in and look at this. So this looks pretty nice. I'm going to say this is all fixed up. So what I'm going to say here is this property, if I think my property is worth more than 697, but my property's worse than this property once it's finished, I'm wrong. So that's kind of a litmus test here where I'm saying, hey, this one's under contract for 697. My house is not as good as this one, and I think I was going to sell it for 750. I'm definitely not going to sell it for 750. I'm going to sell it for less because this house is better than my house. So that gives me an idea, but I don't know exactly what it's sold for, which is why it's interesting to look at actives that are on the market there. And I can look at as is or ARV actives and those things. And then I start my calculations, right? I look at the low, the average, this does this, gives me a final range where I'm saying somewhere between 160 and 180. I can also look at the days that sold on the market, the actives, the pendings to make sure we've got that. And so this is a nice little tool that helps you take the data of what is going on here and actually be able to determine what this property is going to sell for. But you're going to need some tools and resources. So one of the tools you're going to need is Investor's Edge. You're going to need to be able to get the public data and the MLS data. You're going to want to be able to see what's happening there and see that in real time. Let me just come back here to solds so that I can then use this information to look at them, to build my spreadsheet, and then I can make a determination. It really is, I'm trying to find the closest property to my property as to what it's going to look like. And if I'm finding properties that are nicer, then I work my way down and I make adjustments. But the ideal situation is that I find properties that are as close to my property as possible, that are as similar as close as possible. What I'm always asking myself is this property better or worse than what my property will look like when it's done? If the answer is better, then mine's going to sell for less. If that one's better than mine, mine's going to sell for less. So I go to the next one. Is mine better or worse? Okay, mine's better than that one. Great. Then I'm going to sell for more. So it's a comparison of saying, if I am a buyer and I'm going to go shopping, would I rather have this house for this price or this house for this price? I'd rather have this house. Okay, so then I make an adjustment. And then I'm saying, here's another comparable. Would I rather have this one or would I rather have this one? And the key to this is I start with the lowest. So one of the things you can do, see, this is lowest to highest. Whoops, there we go. Lowest to highest. These ones are public records, and it looks like this is non-disclosure. We might be able to get some details. So it's not going to have the actual price there, but what we can look at is the mortgage and transaction history. Oh, they paid cash for this one. So then what I can do is come over here. 485 is what it sold for. So I can get my information on that one. I might be able to even go look at the pictures. Nope, no pictures on that one. So I'm working my way down. I'm building that, making comparisons until I can say, hey, I think the house is going to sell somewhere between here and here. Again, I'm starting with the lowest and I'm working my way up. A lot of mistakes people make is they start with the highest and they work their way down. But what happens is they overlook some things that sold for a lot less money and they overprice their property or they overestimate the value of their property when it's really not worth that. So I'm basically saying, what's the value? I start with the low, I work my way up. Once I find 3 properties that match my criteria that I think are as good or better than what my property will be, then those are the 3 that I'm going to use to then make determinations on the value. Then what I'm going to do is look at square footage. Is this one bigger than mine? Well, if that one's 3,000 square feet and mine's 2,000 square feet, then mine is going to sell for less than that one. So I know it's going to be a little less than that. And I'm going to look at this one. Okay, what's the square footage there? Oh, that one's bigger. That mine's going to sell for a little less than that. Oh, mine's a little bit bigger than this one. This third comp, 1, 2, 3. Okay, mine's going to sell for a little bit more than that. So I'm going to sell somewhere between comp 2 and comp 3. So let's say this is 180 and this is 200,000 is what those sold for. And I'm going to say, I'm going to sell somewhere between 180 and 200,000. What I typically like to do then is say, well, I want to sell fast because time is money, so I'm going to list it for 195,000, but I'm also going to plan on 3 to 5% negotiating room on this. So I'm going to plan on selling somewhere around that. Let's just get our handy dandy calculator. 195 times 0.05 is, just call it $10,000. Then that would be 185. So, I'm basically saying, hey, I'm going to plan on selling about 185. So this is something else you could basically say is, hey, I'm going to plan on selling at 185 and I'm going to list under 200, but I'm going to run my numbers based upon the 180. And if I can make more money, great. But if not, I'm at least covering my worst case scenario. So this is really comparing and contrasting, right? This is not rocket science. It's simply saying, if I was a buyer, would I rather buy that house or that house? I narrow down the area, I narrow down the property types, I start with the lowest and I work my way to the most expensive and I stop once I find the 3 closest comparables. And then I look at those 3 comparables and compare that to what my property is going to be like once the work is done. And then once I have that, I make some small adjustments and I come up with a pretty good range of value as to what I think this property is going to sell for. Again, this is subject to the work that's going to be done. So the next thing you've got to make sure is that the quality of workmanship that you get done matches or exceeds the quality of workmanship of these properties. Because I've seen it happen where the quality of workmanship was not as good as the quality of workmanship, which means this property is not going to sell for what you thought it was going to sell for because the quality of the workmanship is not there. So as you're going through and you're putting your scope of work together as to the work you're planning on doing to the property, you've got to be referring to these comparables. That is the source of record as to what you need to have what your property needs to look like. So if these all have granite countertops, you need to put in granite countertops. If these all have whatever Formica, you can put in Formica. If these all have central air and yours doesn't, yours needs to have central air. This is what the quality of workmanship that your properties are going to need to be like. Now, sometimes people take the very lowest and say, well, I'll do the quality of workmanship with this. Well, that doesn't really work. You'd probably need to do the quality of workmanship on this high side and then price accordingly on that. And that's how you determine what the after repaired value is on a property before you purchase it in determining what you're going to be able to resell that property for. Now, as we say all this, this is an educated guess because markets are always changing. Markets are going up and markets are going down. Thankfully, most real estate markets don't go up and down drastically overnight, but there is variation when it comes to markets. So this is what it's worth right now. 3 months from now, when we're done with the work, we're going to do the same exercise and look at values and make a determination what we think we can sell it for. Then it may be a little higher, it may be a little bit lower. But as we look at our graph here, to the median house range, you really have to zoom in. So if you look, so let's say Q1 27, 257. Let's say Q2 was 242. So you can see this went down like $15,000. In the same, you can see right here when we look at this, 221 and 4 months later, we're at 221, 238. So that went up $20,000. So you can see this 10% variation on some of these prices, which is why we need to relook at it, which is why we need to make sure that we do the same quality of workmanship that is in these properties, and which is why we need to be very careful as we're selecting these comparables by using the data provided. I hope this has been helpful in helping you understand how to do after repaired values. If you're interested in getting any of the information or data or software tools that I've shown today, give us a call. We would be happy to talk about how we can help.